Hello, Namaskar. Welcome to my pod, the CAA Show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis. My name is Juggi Bhasin. To become a subscriber, all you have to do is to press that red button on your screen, and subscription is, of course, completely free. So, officially, Operation Sindoor is still on. No less than the government is saying that, which literally means that we are still in a state of war. We are in a state of high alert. We can expect the unexpected. Hostilities with the hostile enemy country, that is Pakistan, can break out any moment. That is the state of affairs at the moment. And yet, today, I read in the newspapers this alert which has been issued by, I believe it is by our government, to Pakistan that the river Tawi, which obviously originates from Jammu, that can be flooded and therefore the floods could come to Pakistan. And the explanation being given is that this was because of humanitarian reasons that we have alerted Pakistan that they could be flooded and therefore they would need to take whatever suitable precautions. And my question is that if we are in a state of high alert, if Operation Sindoor is still on, if there is a possibility that Operation Sindoor 2.0 can break out any moment, which means that we are literally in a state of war against Pakistan, then what is this business, or what is the reasoning behind alerting Pakistan that they could be flooded because the river Tawi is swelling up and therefore the floods could hit Pakistan? They, by the way, have already hit Jammu, just to update you on this particular piece of news. Why do that? What is the reason for that? It is completely baffling to me. It is completely incomprehensible to me that we should be doing this, because we are, as I said, in a state of war against Pakistan. And therefore, a lot of people who argue that when you are in a state of war against a country, you are in a state of war against their army or against their armed forces, but not against the people of the country, which perhaps would be the reason to justify why you have issued the flood alert to Pakistan to save their people from the floods calamity. But my reasoning, my thinking is a little different from this. When you are in a state of war against a country, then you are totally in a state of war. You're not in a state of war only against the armed forces. It's the entire country that you are in a state of war. And therefore, even in Operation Sindoor 1.0, we did everything right. But I could never fully understand the logic when it was being said that we first targeted the terrorist camps and therefore we only targeted Pakistani military infrastructure because they responded. In other words, we were making a differentiation between the terrorists which are operating in Pakistan and the government of Pakistan, when everybody knows, even children, both sides of the border know that the terrorists are hand in glove with the Pakistani army. In fact, to say that the terrorists are an extension of the Pakistani state, of the Pakistani army, of the Pakistani body politic, of the entire way that Pakistan thinks and behaves, is not an exaggeration at all. And therefore, why do we keep making this differentiation between, the target for us should be the terrorists, the target for us at the most should be the army, but not the people of Pakistan? Why this for want of a better term, this Aman ki Asha for the people of Pakistan, when the fact is, when you are at war against a country, then you are completely, totally at war. What is this business of giving certificates or issuing alerts to Pakistan that floods could be coming from the Tawi River and therefore you need to take precautions for humanitarian reasons? Who has discovered this humanity? Where is this humanity in Pakistan that we are discovering humanity for Pakistan and we are being humane to Pakistan, especially with the kind of evil designs which Pakistan has on India? What is the need for us to be so humanistic towards Pakistan? That's the question which I'm going to ask in this podcast today. And I'm going to give two or three examples of where we are doing great things and suddenly we break the stride. Um, to use a colloquium, we are playing hardball. We have developed this ability to play a hardball. We are in good stride. We are in fantastic stride, and suddenly we break the stride, and suddenly we go back to the old India of playing softball or being a soft state. Why do we do that? What are the reasons we do that? I want to explore all these questions in today's podcast. But a couple of lines or a couple of sentences more, a couple of thoughts more on this particular issue. And then I'll give you two or three other examples that where we, as I said, we are in good stride and suddenly we break the stride. The momentum is lost and we go back to being what we originally were, and why that can be so detrimental to the interests of the country. So, in this particular instance, we definitely are in a state of preparedness. All the tests which are being carried out, the Agni 5 test, the missile shield test, they're all precursors to the fact that something big is just around the corner. It could be coming. It could be coming any day. So you are in a state of war. And when you're in a state of war, then you can't think of humanitarian, or you can't think of all these high, noble, gestures that we have alerted Pakistan. There is no need to do that. The IWT, that is the Indus Water Treaty, is in abeyance. Fantastic. We have to, in fact, we should be speeding up our steps to create our dams and to create our, the all the other resources to block the water from going to Pakistan and divert that water towards India. We should be doing that. That should be our focus. That should be our attention, and not alerting Pakistan, as I said, that floods are coming via the Tawi and therefore please take precaution. We should not be doing that. Let me give you two or three other examples, and then I'll try and explore the reason why we descend into this stupidity, I would say, if nothing else, because it seems very stupid to me. The second example which I would like to give you is of the classic and the biggest mistake I think we have made. That was in 1971, where we won a decisive victory. What a victory we won, both on the Eastern Front and on the Western Front. We captured about 1 lakh Pakistani prisoners. And what did we do? We released all those prisoners. We did not even bother to take some of the few prisoners which are in Pakistani captivity. We did not even bother to change the IWT because of momentum was with. We did not even bother to change the contours of the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. We could have taken it back. All this could have been, the word is not negotiated, we could have forced those particular settlements because we had the upper hand, we had everything in our control, but we let it all fritter away. And therefore, I'm saying we have this peculiar, I call it a very peculiar Indian habit. I would rather even say a peculiar Indian malady, actually, in a certain sense, that um, out of nowhere we suddenly become very humanistic. We suddenly become very empathetic to the side which is causing us existential harm, I would say. We suddenly become empathetic and we start giving, we give these gestures, we make these pronouncements, we take policy decisions which actually completely help the other side and are detrimental to us, as it was the case in 1971. And then closer to these last few days, these very, very momentous last few days, something else happened. The Prime Minister actually categorically said that infiltration will not be tolerated, which is absolutely correct. The thinking is absolutely correct, and tough steps will be taken, harsh steps will be taken to curb infiltration coming from, especially from the Bangladesh side. And then what happens is, then this lady, the social activist, you might have read about it in the papers, Sayyid Hamid. She has also been, I think, the president of some women's association some time back, but she's a prominent social activist. And she makes this absolutely crazy, inflammatory statement that Bangladesh should be welcome into India. What's wrong with that? India is a very big country. We should be large-hearted to welcome Bangladeshis into India. Look, I don't know whether she did it deliberately or it is obtuse thinking or it is absolutely confused thinking. But why am I raising this issue is that these are not the utterances of a single individual. This is a spectrum of thinking amongst especially the intelligentsia in India even today, despite Operation Sindoor, despite what has happened in Pahalgam, despite all the havoc and all the bloodshed and everything, there is still this big spectrum of thinking in India. Then no, 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 no. Please accommodate the other side. Please accommodate Pakistan. Please accommodate Bangladesh. They are our neighbors and good neighboring. We have to make these gestures to them. And unfortunately, that spectrum of thinking, and it's not a small block, it's a huge block of thinking that somehow has its way of seeping in into the policy making apparatus even within the present government. And I'm not saying that the movers and shakers of the present government are deliberately doing it, but there are some elements, even in this government, who are susceptible to this kind of thinking. And therefore this nonsensical stuff of making these gestures. Even that gesture, for instance, of opening the Wagah border and continuing those, I call those stupid, things, those parades which we have in the evening at the Wagah border, both sides, absolutely unnecessary. See, the point really out here being that if you are being tough with a country, you can't be half tough with a country. If you're being tough, then you have to be tough, tough, tough. There is no way that you can say, oh, I can be one third tough, I can be half tough, I can be three quarters tough. That does not the way it works in the real world. And this is the lesson we don't even learn. We keep suffering, but we don't learn this lesson. So that was the Sayyid Hamid instance, the second example which I wanted to give to you. The third example is, of course, the Asia Cup example. What is the problem in the Asia Cup example? Why are, I would say, we are being forced literally to play Pakistan in the Asia Cup in Dubai? And I, for one, don't believe, as some people are alleging, that there is money is changing hands and all that. I don't believe it has anything to do with money. It is simply a problem that we still are a country, despite the fact that the whole world, the whole geopolitical space has completely changed around us, but we are still a country, we are still a people, we are still a bureaucracy which is still steeped into following, within quotes, rules. And what are the rules? Well, obviously, if you don't play in these international tournaments or if you skip matches, then you will be penalized. You could be out of the Asia Cup, you could be out of the Olympics, you could be, yes, there are repercussions for that, absolutely. And the short point is that even if there are repercussions, even if you're out of these cups, out of these tournaments, so what? You're making a point. You're not going to play Pakistan. You will not play Pakistan. As simple as that. The United States did that when the Olympics were organized in the then Soviet Union. They walked out of it. They made their point. And therefore, I am arguing that if you have to make a point, you can't half make a point. You have to fully make that point. That is the thing we need to learn. If you say that we have no contact with Pakistan, we will not play with them. It's no point in saying, oh, we won't play bilaterally with them or we want to have one-to-one matches with them. But international tournaments we will play because we are good boys. We follow the rules of the international order. And therefore, as good boys, as good people, as obedient people, we will follow the rules and we will play. I'm sorry, the time has come when we have to break because the international order is completely changed, by the way. And therefore, if we are following some silly notion of rules and order and everything, fine. At the most, what will happen? You'll be out of the Asia Cup. You will in cricket. You won't maybe participate in some international tournaments, even out of the World Cup. So what? The small price to pay. It's a very small price to pay. It's not going to affect your one-to-one series, let's say, between India and England, or India and Australia, and India and South Africa and other countries. But you just don't play Pakistan. And that's the point which is lost on the selectors. That's the point which is lost on the government. That's the point which is lost on our policy makers when they keep on, diluting. They keep on diluting the agenda which the nation only has set for itself. It is a dilution of the agenda which only we have set for ourselves. And that is the problem. That is actually the tragedy of the entire situation. Fourth example, which I want to give to you, that is about Zelensky. Now, we have nothing against Ukraine. We have nothing against Zelensky. But the fact of the matter is, too much has happened in this Russia, oil, Russia, the US, and India, and all this particular space. And therefore, the reports which are coming true, though there has been, I have to, there's a line of caution that nothing officially has been said so far, but there are strong reports that are coming that Zelensky could be coming to India, which means India has probably invited Zelensky over to India. And therefore, the question which I am asking is this, that you are suffering so much of grief, you are suffering so much of, I would say, economic adversity also, because these sanctions from the US are going to bite, whether we like it or not, in some aspect or the other. A lot of lines, a lot of jobs, especially in the textile sector, in gems, jewelry, and other sectors, fisheries could be on the line. And all because of this Russian oil thing, and all because of this Ukraine thing. Why would you invite Zelensky right now? What is the need for that? And I'm not too sure the Russians would be very, very delighted with this prospect also, despite all this talk of, oh, we keep equidistance between Russia and Ukraine. We are not choosing a side. But this is not the time for that. And the only reason why probably this is happening is because, again, we are playing the good boys of the international order. Oh, no, we are nice, noble, equidistant people. We have to keep equidistance from both Russia and from Ukraine. So the fact of the matter is, you can't equate Zelensky with Putin. You can't do it. I mean, there is no equation at all, really. A lot of your interests now are vested in Russia, which means they are in Putin. What if he doesn't like this move? I mean, these are considerations you have to keep in mind. But the problem is, and I will now try and summarize all these 4 points, 4 examples which I've given, and I'll tell you what the real problem is. The real problem is this: we still haven't developed fully the appetite or the tenacity, and that's a word which I'm using, tenacity, to be tough, to be a tough state, to play hard ball. I've given you these 4 examples. We move into that sphere. We do a lot of talk. We say a lot of things. We even carry out it to some measure, and then somewhere halfway along that particular, line of thought or action, I would say, we just break the stride and we move back into our original position, that we are this nice, soft, lullaby singing, nice state which will accommodate everybody's interests, even though they might be inimical to you, even though they might be harmful to you, but we will accommodate it all the same. This is our biggest problem. And that is why, and that is the single biggest reason why not only we are treated as a soft state, that's the single biggest reason that we are made an example of in international affairs. Why do you think, for instance, why China has been exempted from these tariffs and we have not been? Why are we being made an example of? Everybody knows this is plain hypocrisy. Everybody in the world knows, all the powers to be in the world know that India is deliberately being targeted or picked upon. But why are we picked upon? Why are we not asking ourselves that question? Instead of just blaming the US or other countries or whatever, that's not the point. The point is, we offer ourselves up to the rest of the world to be targeted by these stupid actions which we take, by suddenly become soft. The world respects toughness, the world respects power, the world respects people who carry their convictions right up till the end. And that is the problem which we face, that we start something on a really good note, we do it very well, and somewhere along the way, we just lose steam and we start accommodating the interests of other people, especially hostile forces. And that is exactly what has happened in this case between India and Pakistan. So, if we don't want to be treated as a soft state, if we don't want to be made an example of in international affairs, in the geostrategic space, then we have to, as we say, wake up literally, smell the coffee, and realize that once you have taken a line of action, a hard line of action, stick to it. Don't deviate from that. Don't move away from that. Keep on going till the end. I'm not saying you become obstinate, inflexible. There is always room for that. But out of no rhyme or reason, without any benefit occurring to you, don't break the stride. Don't, as they say, there is this famous line, when you go to London and you're riding in the U, and they have this thing called mind the gap. Don't just keep closing the gap to convenience the other side, the hostile, the enemy side. Think of your interests first. We have to learn to be tough, to think of our interests first, and the interests of other people be damned. It doesn't make a difference. Think of yourself first. Only then we can really emerge as people or as a country that will be taken note of very, very seriously by anyone, and nobody will mess around with you in the future. So, on that note, I come to the end of this podcast. I hope you liked it. If you like the show, of course, subscribe to it. And on this note, it's goodbye and cheers from my end.